They told you physics was beautiful, that the universe was elegant. But the deeper you dig into the quantum world, the more it refuses to stay still, refuses to make sense, refuses to be real. You are not here to understand reality. You are here to watch it dissolve. Schrödinger's cat was never in the box you were. You've heard the story before. Schrödinger's cat, a sealed box, a radioactive atom, a vial of poison. A cat both alive and dead until you dare to look inside. But what no one ever told you is that this wasn't a thought experiment about the cat. It was about you, because the box isn't out there, it's here, around your head. Let's rewind. In 1935, Erwin Schrödinger devised the cat scenario to mock the absurd implications of quantum superposition. A quantum particle, he explained, could exist in multiple states simultaneously, only choosing a state upon observation. Extend this logic. If a subatomic particle exists in limbo, and it triggers a device that determines life or death, then a cat becomes an echo of probability. Both dead and alive, unresolved, existing in an ontological stutter. But let's move deeper. What is observation? In the Copenhagen interpretation, the mainstream interpretation of quantum mechanics, observation causes the wave function to collapse. Reality doesn't choose a state until you look. The universe plays coy with its truth. It waits. Now here's the slit in the curtain. If the universe doesn't decide until you observe, then reality itself is a consequence of your attention. Your gaze pins existence into a definite state. What existed before you looked before you were born even becomes a speculative fog, a maybe, a cat in a box. That cat alive and dead is you. Your identity, your memory, your entire sense of self. It collapses only when others observe you. Until then, you exist as competing waveforms, confident and terrified, kind and cruel, strong and helpless, simultaneously, unchosen, unfixed, unfinished. When you recall a childhood memory, what collapses is not the past, but your interpretation of it. You were not a happy child. You were not a sad child. You were both. You are both. You exist in quantum entanglement with your own recollections, observation selecting a narrative, collapsing all other possibilities. Now let's drag you back to the cat. What if you refuse to look in the box? What if you live in the comfort of maybe, of ambiguity? Does the cat then live forever in a purgatory of potential? Do you? Quantum suicide expands on this dilemma. It's a macabre take. Imagine the same box, but you're the subject. Every time you pull the quantum trigger, there's a 50/50th chance of your death. But in the many worlds interpretation, a universe exists for every outcome, which means, from your perspective, you never die. You always wake up in the version of reality where you survive. But think, if that were true, if every version of you that dies is gone, and only the you that survives continues, then, eventually, your consciousness must travel to the unlikeliest timeline, the most improbable, the most broken, the one where you survive beyond logic, beyond odds, beyond reason. And if you are reading this, if you are still here, what does that say about the world you now occupy? Quantum immortality is not a gift, it is an endless sentence. You will survive. Car crashes that should have killed you, diseases that should have ended you. You'll watch others vanish, but your thread will never snap. The cat doesn't die. You never get out of the box. You call it a metaphor, but it's not. Because that's the trick of quantum theory. It doesn't just describe subatomic particles. It implicates you, your consciousness, your past, your certainty, because the question was never, is the cat dead or alive? The question is, who keeps putting you back in the box? 2. The double slit experiment didn't just break physics. It broke you. There is a moment in physics where reality flinched, where it cracked, quietly, like a porcelain mask, and showed us what lay beneath. That moment was the double slit experiment. You may have heard of it. To slits, a beam of particles, a screen, a pattern that shouldn't exist, yet insists on existing. But this isn't about the experiment. It's about what it did to you. When scientists fired particles photons toward a metal plate with 2 vertical slits, they expected the particles to behave like bullets, go through one slit or the other, land accordingly. And when no one watched, they didn't act like bullets. They acted like waves, waves of probability, waves that passed through both slits at once, waves that interfered with themselves, as if the particle was everywhere, as if it wasn't real. But here's where the mirror turns. When someone watched when they placed a detector near the slits, the particles behaved again. The interference vanished. The particles chose a slit. The wave collapsed. The pattern turned normal. Reality, when looked at, straightened its posture like a guilty child. Why? Because the act of measurement, of observation, the infinite, it chooses one version of the universe and discards the rest. So ask yourself, how many versions of you have been discarded? Every decision you made, every hesitation, every might have been created a branching path. But those paths only survive in the absence of observation. The moment someone saw you cry, or win, or fail, or change, that version collapsed into permanence, and the rest of you died, quietly, without protest. But there's more. It wasn't the machine watching the slits that changed the outcome. It was the information, the potential to know what happened. The universe doesn't just react to sight, it reacts to the possibility of knowing. You don't need to be looked at to be changed. You only need to believe that someone could be watching, which means your behavior right now, in the dark, alone, is still influenced by an unseen observer. The idea of surveillance alters you. You collapse differently when you think you're alone versus when you think you're watched. Even when no one is there, you're performing. You've never truly met yourself. You've only ever met the version that survived observation. And what about the versions that didn't survive? The ones that chose differently, moved differently, broke away from the timeline. Do they haunt you in dreams? Is that why you wake with a sense of someone missing? Is that why déjà vu feels less like memory and more like grief? You call it science, but it's a ritual. You fire yourself into the day, split through the slits of choices, and collapse under the gaze of a world that refuses to let you be. Infinite. So here's the truth you can't unknow. You are not a consistent self. You are not even one thing. You are a probability cloud wearing a name, and the only reason you feel real right now is because you're being watched. But by what? 3. You've never seen an electron, but it controls everything you are. Look around you. The device in your hand, the skin on your fingers, the thoughts flickering behind your eyes. Every inch of it made from atoms, and those atoms controlled by something you've never truly seen. Something that doesn't obey logic, doesn't behave, doesn't exist in a place you can point to. The electron. You've heard of electrons as tiny particles, little balls orbiting a nucleus like planets around a sun. That image was comforting. It was easy. it was also a lie. Because electrons don't orbit, they cloud, they smear. They exist not in points, but in probabilities. Wherever you think an electron is, it isn't. Wherever it could be, it might not be. It exists as a wave functioner, spread of potential, across space and only collapses into a point when you try to observe it. So what holds the shape of your hand together? What keeps your body from sinking through your bed? What makes solid things feel solid? Nothing. There is no matter in matter. Only electromagnetic repulsion, the illusion of touch, enforced by electron fields refusing to overlap. You aren't resting on your bed. You are hovering, slightly, suspended by invisible force. A ghost repelled by a ghost. But it goes deeper. The electron doesn't just misbehave in space, it misbehaves in identity. You see, all electrons are identical, perfectly, indistinguishably. There is no serial number, no fingerprint. The electron in your brain is the same as the one orbiting a dying star across the galaxy. Not similar, the same. This led to a disturbing idea once proposed by Nobel laureate John Wheeler and championed by physicist Richard Feynman. What if every electron in the universe is the same particle, traveling through time? What if the reason every electron looks identical is because it is thesum, electron looping, bouncing back and forth across timelines, creating the illusion of multiplicity? If that's true, then the particles in your heart have already been inside ancient suns, black holes, and strangers you will never meet. You are not an individual. You are a moment in the trajectory of a wandering ghost. But even this isn't the end. Electrons can tunnel, appear on the other side of barriers, with no path in between. A miracle of probability. Imagine trying to punch a wall, and sometimes, rarely, impossibly, your fist phases through. Electrons do that. All the time. Reality lets them cheat. They also entangle. Two electrons can become so deeply linked that a change in one instantly changes the other. No matter how far apart they are, distance becomes meaningless. Space collapses. Separation is a myth. So now, ask yourself, if your thoughts are powered by electrons, and electrons don't obey space, and time doesn't separate them, then where do you begin? Where do you end? You have never truly seen an electron. You never will. Yet everything you touch, everything you feel, everything you are, is made of their shadow. They pass through barriers. They defy distance. They collapse when watched. And they are the only reason you exist. So tell me, if the thing that builds you doesn't follow the rules, why do you still believe you're real? For time doesn't move. Do you think time flows? You feel it, don't you? The second by second tick of a world unfolding, stretching forward from a remembered past into an imagined future. But what if that sensation, that feeling of motion, is not time itself moving, but you? In Einstein's universe, time isn't a flowing river. It's a dimension, static, immutable. Every moment that has ever existed, and will ever exist, already is. The past doesn't disappear. The future doesn't wait. They are all there, layered like pages in a book you are forbidden to flip through. This concept is called the block universe, the idea that the universe is a structure where time is simply one coordinate among others. The moment of your birth, your first memory, your last breath, all still exist. You just aren't there to witness them. Not now, not yet, or maybe not anymore. But that raises a question far more disturbing than any scientific paradox. If every moment exists eternally, then what are you? You think you're moving through time, aging, changing, deciding. But in the block universe, movement is illusion. You're not a traveler, you're a fixed line. A worm of consciousness stretched across events that already happened, already will, already do. Your now isn't special. It's just the slice you're currently experiencing, like the lit frame of a film strip. The rest of the movie exists, too, but you're not allowed to skip ahead, not allowed to rewind. So then, is free will a myth? If the future already is, if your actions are written, not decided, then you are a passenger in a story that cannot change. Your choices were illusions. Your regrets are echoes. Even your rebellion was predicted. And yet, you still feel time, but neuroscience has a word for that. It's not flow, it's temporal binding, your brain's illusion of continuity. What you perceive as the arrow of time is just your neurons assembling a story, frame by frame, after the fact. Like a lie told so well, you believe it. There are tribes in the Amazon with no word for future. Some Aboriginal languages treat the past as ahead of them, visible, remembered. The future is behind them, unknown, unseen. They don't travel through time. Time moves around them, and quantum mechanics is no kinder. At the tiniest scales, particles do not obey temporal order. In fact, time symmetry suggests the laws of physics work equally well backwards. There's no universal rule that says effects must follow causes. That's a human preference, not a physical law. In some quantum equations, particles are allowed to travel backwards through time. Even the famous Feynman diagrams, the backbone of quantum electrodynamics, show antiparticles moving from the future into the past. So ask yourself, if physics doesn't require time to move forward, and the universe doesn't change, then what exactly is growing old? Maybe it's just you, your consciousness, like a light scanning through a frozen painting, giving the illusion of motion to something long since decided. You are not progressing, you are not moving, you are just arriving at moments that already waited for you. So the next time you close your eyes and feel time slipping away, remember this. You're not drifting through time, you're trapped in it, and the door you think is ahead of you may have already closed behind you. 5. You're made of empty space, and math touch your chest. Feel your heartbeat. Press your fingers against your arms, your face, the bed you lie on. It all feels solid, dense, physical, comforting. But here's the first betrayal. There is no such thing as solidity. What you're touching is mostly nothing. Atoms make up your body, trillions of them. But each atom is 99.99999999999% empty space. The nucleus, infinitesimally small. The electrons, somewhere in a cloud of uncertainty. And in between, nothing, not a vacuum, not air, just absence. A silent, infinite space that pretends to be form. If your atoms were scaled up to the size of football stadiums, their nuclei would be the size of a marble, and the electrons, nowhere to be found, just probability humming in the dark. So why do you feel solid? Electromagnetic repulsion, fields pushing against fields. Your hand never touches anything. It's repelled by the outer electron shells of other atoms. You are a puppet of fields pretending to have substance, an echo of energy bouncing off illusions of shape. But let's go deeper, beneath the space, beneath the illusion. What is an atom really? A particle, a wave, a blur of uncertainty. According to quantum field theory, the most accurate physical model ever created. Particles don't actually exist, not as standalone entities. They are excitations in quantum fields, vibrations, ripples, temporary events in invisible, underlying structures. You are not made of matter, you are made of events, fleeting disturbances in fields that span the universe. And what defines those events? Math, pure mathematical relationships. Quantum theory doesn't describe particles by their color, smell, or texture. It describes them by equations, numbers, symmetries, functions. The world you see is a hallucination your brain creates from a set of math problems being solved in real time. Physicist Max Tegmark believes the universe is not just described by math, it is math, that we are living in a mathematical structure, a pure informational lattice, a cold geometry wearing flesh. In his view, everything you love, fear, remember, all your pain, joy, despair is reducible to numbers. You are not made of atoms. You are not made of cells. You are made of data. And what does that mean for death? When a program ends, the hardware remains, but the structure, the pattern, the information vanishes. Your body is not what dies. It's your pattern, your arrangement, your equation, and worse, the math doesn't care. Mathematics is indifferent to meaning. It contains no preference, no justice, no soul. It holds your life the same way it holds the flight path of a fly or the orbit of a cold planet. You call yourself a human, but in the eyes of reality, you are a momentary distortion in an abstract field of symbols. Even love, even thought, is electrical patterning, neurochemical cascades, molecules vibrating according to principles set before time was measured. So here's the question. If you are made of emptiness, built on math, hallucinating form, in a universe of silence, then what, exactly, do you think is you? 6. Your brain rewrites reality, then lies about it. You trust your mind. It's the last thing you have. When your body fails, when the world blurs, when science fractures into paradox, your thoughts feel like home. But what if your mind is not your ally? What if it's the most sophisticated hallucination engine ever built? Your brain is not designed to show you the truth. It's designed to keep you alive. And if those two goals ever conflict, reality dies first. Let's start with a blind spot in your vision. You have one in each eye, a hole where the optic nerve connects to the retina. There are no photoreceptors there, no light, no image, just a gap. But you don't see a black hole. When you look around, do you? Why? Because your brain fills it in. It fabricates information based on context, color, symmetry. It doesn't tell you it guessed. It doesn't warn you. It just edits the world in silence. And it does this everywhere. Studies show your brain delays your perception by about 80 milliseconds just to collect more data before presenting a unified version of now. Your experience of the present is not real time. It is a carefully delayed rendering. You are always living in a slightly edited past. You think your memories are solid. But memory is not a recording, it's a reconstruction. Each time you remember an event, you rewrite it. The original fades, replaced by the copy. Eventually, you're remembering the memory of a memory. What you call your past may be a long chain of distortions with no anchor. Then there's the confabulation effect, where your brain fabricates explanations for decisions it didn't consciously make. In one study, split-brain patients had each hemisphere shown different images. One side acted, the other unaware of the reason invented a story with confidence, with conviction, which means even your reasoning is post hoc fiction. You don't choose, then act. You act, and then your brain invents a choice. Now pair that with the interpreter module. The left hemisphere's tendency to create coherent narratives, even when faced with contradiction. It would rather make up a lie than admit confusion. It's like having a full-time PR agent in your head, spinning every thought for consistency. So what is yourself? Neuroscience can't find it. There is no central you in the brain, no command center, no throne of consciousness. Instead, there are modules, fragments, competing circuits, voting on behavior. You are a parliament of neurons pretending to be a king. Even your sense of continuity, of being one person through time, is a fragile illusion. The ship of Theseus. Paradox asks, if every plank of a ship is replaced, is it still the same ship? Your body replaces cells constantly. Your memories fade. Your beliefs shift. Which part of you has not been replaced? But your brain doesn't want you to notice, because noticing would destroy the illusion of coherence. So it builds a seamless dream, moment by moment, stitching guesses, biases, and fabrications into the costume of reality. And you wear it willingly. But here's the paradox. If your brain lies to you, if it hides gaps, rewrites memories, delays perception, fakes decisions, then how can you trust the voice in your head asking these questions? What if this, right now, is just another layer of the dream? 7. You're entangled with everyone you've ever touched. You think you end at your skin, that your body is a border, your thoughts trapped behind bone, your memories sealed in grey matter. But quantum mechanics doesn't care about your boundaries, because at the quantum level, separation is a myth. Entanglement is one of the most disturbing features of quantum theory. Two particles once connected can become entangled, meaning their properties are no longer independent. Measure one, and you instantly determine the state of the other, even if they're light years apart. No signal, no delay, just coordination across space. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. He hated it. It broke causality. It made space irrelevant. But experiments have proven it's real. Now ask yourself, where does entanglement stop? When you touch a person physically, emotionally, psychologically, how deep does the connection go? Every moment of intimacy is an exchange of particles, energy, breath. Your atoms intermingle. Your quantum fields overlap. It's not poetry, it's physics. The human body sheds 40,000 skin cells per hour. You leave a trail of yourself on everything. People, objects, air. Others do the same. You breathe in strangers. You absorb particles of lovers long gone. You are stitched together by encounters, entangled not just by contact but by information shared. Now imagine this. If two particles can remain entangled across galaxies, what of the particles in your body that once belonged to others? Statistically, you inhale atoms once exhaled by Caesar, Cleopatra, the dying, the unborn. And if entanglement doesn't decay with distance, then you may be quantumly tethered to minds you'll never know, thinking echoes that ripple across your neurons. But it's deeper than matter. Emotions entangle, too. Mirror neurons in your brain activate not only when you act, but when you witness. Empathy is not a metaphor, it's biological resonance. When someone suffers, part of your brain mirrors their pain. When someone cries, your body floods with matching chemicals. You think you're alone in your head, but your nervous system is porous. It absorbs signals, echoes, emotions, even from screens, even from memories. So what happens when you break a heart? When you betray someone who trusted you? When you hold someone close, then disappear? You leave a trace, an invisible line. Entanglement may not be broken, only diluted. And here's the twist. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that the entire universe began as a single, entangled state, the primordial singularity, which means everything that exists now was once the same point. Everything, including you, is still entangled. You are not a separate entity. You are a collapsed version of a shared origin, a local expression of universal code. So when you lie awake feeling a presence, when you feel watched with no one around, when you wake from dreams that don't belong to you, maybe it's not imagination. Maybe you're receiving the residue of entangled minds. Maybe part of you still is them. So the next time you feel alone, ask yourself, how alone can you truly be when there was never any distance between you? 8. You're not in the universe is in you. Look around. Everything you see, walls, ceiling, shadows, silence, feels like the outside, the external, a world beyond you, moving on its own, indifferent to your presence. But quantum theory and the edge of consciousness studies suggest something else. The universe may not exist independently of you. In fact, it may not exist at all without you. Let's start with a bitter truth. No one has ever proven that reality is objective. Science assumes objectivity, that the universe operates whether or not you're watching. But at the quantum level, this assumption collapses. In experiment after experiment, reality doesn't settle until observation occurs. Particles don't take positions. Light doesn't behave as a wave or a particle. Time doesn't move forward. Things do not exist until they are measured, which leads us to one of the most disturbing interpretations of quantum mechanics, the participatory anthropic principle proposed by John Archibald Wheeler. It suggests that conscious observation is required to bring the universe into being. Not metaphorically, literally. The double-slit experiment has already hinted at this. But Wheeler went further, proposing that not only do present observations collapse reality, they might collapse the past as well. Let that sink in, that light from a star, traveling for billions of years, may only decide to behave like a particle or a wave when it reaches your eye. Which means the past is not fixed until you observe its consequences. You think history happened behind you, carved in stone. But what if it's still soft clay, still morphing in response to your gaze? Physicist Eugene Wigner took it even further. He asked, what if consciousness itself is not in the universe, but the other way around? What if the universe emerges from consciousness? Your brain doesn't sense reality, it builds it. From electrical impulses, from filtered input. You never experience the world. You experience your brain's simulation of the world. You live inside a custom hallucination, constantly refreshed to maintain the illusion of stability. Every color you see is a trick. There is no red in a rose, just wavelengths. The redness exists nowhere but your brain. The scent of rain, a chemical interpreted as memory, the sound of wind, vibrations sculpted into meaning by your auditory cortex. So what, exactly, is outside you? Even space and time might be emergent, not fundamental. Theoretical physicist Carlo Rovelli and others propose that space-time arises from quantum interactions, not the other way around. It's not a backdrop. It's a side effect of entangled relationships. If true, then the space you think you lie within is a consequence of your position in the informational web, a local illusion. And if reality is local, if time is subjective, if space is not absolute, then what is you? Are you the observer, the observed, or both? Ask yourself, when you dream, the world feels real until it doesn't. But who says this isn't the same? You woke up today assuming the universe would still be there, the stars, the gravity, the laws, but what if they don't persist on their own? What if they're fragile, conditional? What if they are waiting for you to believe in them? Just one more time. And if that's true, then when you close your eyes tonight, does the universe continue? Or does it quietly vanish, waiting, again to be imagined? 9. The observer is the observed, and you were never separate. You've been trained to think of yourself as a witness, a mind behind eyes, a being inside a body, watching the universe unfold around you. But quantum mechanics, and certain branches of Eastern philosophy long before it, ask something darker. What if you're not witnessing reality? What if you are reality, observing itself? Let's return again to the quantum measurement problem. A particle exists in a cloud of probabilities, a wave function, until it is observed. Then it chooses a position, becomes real. But who or what is the observer? For a long time, we imagined a camera, a sensor, an impartial machine. But that didn't fix the paradox. Because even when a detector registers the particle, nothing collapses until a conscious observer looks at the data. This is called the Wigner's friend thought experiment. Imagine, your friend is in a lab, observing a quantum experiment. Inside the lab, from their perspective, the particle's wave function collapses. A result happens. But you, outside the lab, still don't know what your friend saw. So from your perspective, the lab and your friend remain in superposition. So whose reality is real? The friend's, yours, both. What if there is no absolute state of the world, only a tangle of observer-dependent realities, layered on top of each other, endlessly? And now it gets worse. Consider the self-model theory, a concept in neuroscience which suggests that what you experience as you is not a real self, but a constantly updated internal simulation. Your body, your voice, your beliefs, all part of a model, a hallucination used to coordinate survival. You are not the observer, you are the observed model of the observer. This means the thing you call I, the narrator in your head, is a recursive loop, a hallucination having a hallucination of itself. It watches thoughts and mistakes them for authorship. It watches emotion and claims identity. But beneath it is silence. The observer is an illusion built by neurons to make sense of chaos. Now tie this to quantum theory. If the observer causes the wave function to collapse, but the observer is just a model, then what, if anything, is doing the collapsing? Is it consciousness? But what is consciousness? We don't know. No theory fully explains it. Some argue it's an emergent property. Others claim it's fundamental, a fabric beneath matter itself. Panpsychism suggests that even electrons have proto-consciousness, a spark of experience embedded in matter. If that's true, then the universe has always been aware, not watched by you, but by itself. There is no distinction between subject and object, no line between seer and seen. When you look at a tree, the tree is also looking at you. When you study a particle, the particle responds. When you reflect inward, There is nothing but the universe folding in on itself. You are not a consciousness inside a world. You are a temporary wrinkle in the world's consciousness of itself. You were never inside anything. You were never separate. So now, answer this. If the observer is not real, and the observed is just a reflection, then who exactly is watching this unfold? 10. The many worlds are already here, and you've died countless times when you made your last big decision, took that job, answered that call, didn't step into the road. What happened to the versions of you who chose differently? You tell yourself they're imaginary possibilities, regrets, but quantum mechanics doesn't agree. According to the many worlds interpretation of quantum physics, every time a quantum event occurs, every time a particle's wave function could collapse in more than one way, all outcomes happen. Not one reality, every reality. In other words, the universe doesn't decide, it splits. Right now, there are infinite versions of you. In one, you never finished this sentence. In another, you never existed at all. In one, you're already dead in thousands of unremarkable ways. And the worst part, you never feel the branching. Your perception, your consciousness is trapped on a single thread, unaware of the others. You only remember the choices you did make, never the lives you lost by not choosing, but they're there, right beside you, layered in superposition. The chair you sit in, it's also empty and broken and never built all at once. The version you're in is just one of many where its atoms happen to align this way. You think death is final, but many worlds suggests you've died already countless times, just not in the branches you can remember. In some timelines, your heart failed, the plane crashed, the tumor spread. You just happened to be experiencing the version where it didn't. This has led to a chilling idea called quantum immortality. In theory, there's always a version of you that survives, that continues, no matter how unlikely. To you, it would feel like eternal life, but the cost is everything else. Every friend who loses you in their world, every family that mourns. You, while you wake up, untouched, you survive, but only in your eyes. The others lose you, again and again, and you never even notice. Now consider this. Every time you doubt yourself, every time you hesitate, you are splitting, birthing new realities. You've left millions of youths behind, living the lives you abandoned. Some hate you for it. Some don't even know. You exist, and the version of you listening now, the one in this exact moment, hearing these words, is just one ghost among billions. So, where does it end? It doesn't. The branching never stops. The universe doesn't delete. It only diverges. And if every version of you exists, then who are you, really? A single voice in an infinite choir? A shadow pretending to be whole? Or are you just the version that hasn't realized you're already gone? 11. You're living in the past, and always will be. You believe you're awake right now, alive in the present, sensing the world as it unfolds. But that's not how time works. Not in your brain. Not in physics. You are not experiencing the present. You're experiencing a memory of it. Let's start with biology. Your brain receives information from your senses, light, sound, touch, and processes it before it becomes perception. But that processing takes time. Every signal must travel through nerves, be decoded by circuits, and stitched into a narrative. The delay is microscopic, around 80 to 500 milliseconds, depending on the sense, but it's enough. Enough for the world to have already moved on by the time you perceive it. Your now is already gone. You are always reacting to it. The world that no longer exists. And worse, your brain compensates for this delay by predicting the future. What you see isn't the raw signal, it's a best guess. A forecast, stitched together from memory, assumption, and expectation. A hallucination of what the world should look like, based on what it used to. The philosopher Andy Clark calls this the prediction machine, a mind that constantly fills in the blanks, that doesn't wait for truth, that hallucinates reality and only corrects itself when proven wrong. So when you hear your name, feel a breeze, or catch a falling glass, you think it's instinct, but it's all lag, delayed response, retrospective action. You are not in the moment. You are trailing behind it, blind. Now combine this with relativity. Einstein proved that there is no universal now. Time is not the same for everyone. Everywhere, a person moving faster than you, or deeper in a gravity well, experiences time differently. Two observers can disagree on the order of events, and both can be correct. This means there is no absolute present, no shared moment. Time is fractured, localized, relative. Your now is yours alone. But even more unsettling is what this does to memory. Neuroscientists have found that memory and imagination use the same brain regions. The past and the possible are indistinguishable to your brain. Each time you remember something, you are not retrieving a file, you are reconstructing a story, using fragments and filling in the rest. And with each reconstruction, it shifts. You remember your past, but your brain might be inventing it. Your history may not be real, which raises the final wound if you never truly experience the present. If your brain can fabricate the past, if your senses lag behind the world, if time is relative, then when, if ever, have you actually existed? Maybe the present is a myth. Maybe your life is just a smear of after-images, the light echo of things already lost. And maybe that feeling, that strange, familiar ache when you lie awake and feel like something's missing, like you're always late to your own life, isn't anxiety. Maybe it's recognition, because deep down your brain remembers the world already happened. You're just here to watch it die. 12. Reality isn't made of things, it's made of relations. You see objects, things, chairs, trees, people, your own hands. You believe the world is composed of stuff, physical, stable, self-contained. But what if that belief is nothing more than a mental shortcut? What if there are no things, only the relationships between them? This is not philosophy, it is the foundation of relational quantum mechanics, one of the most radical ideas in modern physics, proposed by theoretical physicist Carlo Rovelli. Relational quantum mechanics argues that there are no absolute states, no intrinsic properties. Every measurement, every value, every observation is relative, not to space, but to the observer. In this framework, a particle doesn't have a fixed position, spin, or momentum. It only has those things in relation to something else. That chair exists in relation to your eyes. Your memories exist in relation to your brain. Even your body, the sense of where you begin and end, is a result of countless reference points. Smell, touch, sound, recognition. Strip away the relations, and nothing remains. This mirrors something eerily similar in Buddhist philosophy, anatta, or no-self. The doctrine that the self is not a permanent, independent entity, but a bundle of conditions and experiences. You are not you. You are the ever-changing result of what you've seen, touched, feared, and forgotten. You do not exist alone. You exist between others, between meanings, between frames of reference. And now, back to physics. In quantum field theory, particles are not truly entities. They are interactions, excitations in fields. There is no electron floating through space like a marble. There is only an event, a disturbance here, another one there. The rest is inference. The particle is not a thing. It's the relation between events. And if everything is just a web of relations, then nothing has meaning in isolation. There is no self, no object, no origin, only context, your identity. Your I is not a core, it's a crossroads, a point where memories, culture, language, trauma, chemicals, and time intersect for a moment, before unraveling. Think of this: when you love someone, what are you loving? Their body, their brain, or the relation between their story and yours? What you feel isn't in them, it's in the space between you, a fragile thread of mutual recognition, and when they're gone, the relation shatters. The object remains, but the meaning dies. Now ask yourself, if the world is made of relations, and relations require other things to exist, then what are you in the silence of total isolation? A thing, or the absence of a thing? A self, or just the memory of one, fraying as the network that defined it collapses? You've never existed on your own. You never could. Even this moment, hearing these words only exists in relation to you. But what happens when the relation ends? When no one remembers? When no one watches? When even the reflection of your own mind fades into static? Then do you disappear? Or were you never there to begin with? 13. The future is already affecting. You assume cause comes before effect. That time moves in one direction, forward. That the future cannot touch the present, and certainly not the past. But quantum mechanics doesn't follow your timeline. In fact, it may not follow time at all. Let's begin with the delayed choice quantum eraser experiment. Here's how it works. A photon passes through a double slit, just like in the famous experiment. If unmeasured, it behaves like a wave, interfering with itself. But if you observe which slit it goes through, it collapses into a particle. No interference. So far, normal quantum strangeness. But in this version, scientists add a twist. They decide after the photon has passed through the slits whether or not to preserve or erase the which path information. And the result? The future decision made after the photon has already hit the screen appears to determine whether it behaved like a particle or a wave in the past. The choice you make later seems to retroactively change what the particle did earlier. This isn't science fiction. It's been replicated, documented. Now apply that idea to yourself. What if some part of your life, some choice you will make, is already rippling backward, altering what you think, what you remember, who you are? What if the direction of causality isn't a rule, but a suggestion? And this isn't limited to particles. Some physicists and philosophers propose models like retrocausality, where events in the future influence the present. In these interpretations, time is not a line, it's a web, and you are at one of its intersections, unaware that strings are pulling both ways. You may feel like you're heading toward your future, but maybe your future is also reaching back toward you. Every déjà vu, every irrational fear, every dream that feels too real. What if they aren't echoes from behind, but signals from ahead? There are theories, fringe but growing, that suggest consciousness itself might not be constrained by linear time, that your thoughts and memories are entangled not just across neurons, but across temporal states. Think of precognition. Think of gut instincts. Think of decisions you made for no reason that saved you. Was it chance? Or did some sliver of your mind already know? You are not a train moving forward on tracks. You are a node in a tangle of timelines, collapsing possibilities in every direction. And if the future is shaping your present, then what does that say about free will? Are you choosing, or are you just following an impulse that already came from tomorrow? And more importantly, if the future is already touching you, bending, your memories whispering into your thoughts, designing your path, then what part of you still belongs to the now? 14. You can never know if you're awake. You're sure this is real. Your breath, your bed, this voice. You think you're conscious, aware, awake. But are you? Or are you just dreaming of wakefulness? The philosopher René Descartes famously doubted everything, his senses, his memories, the existence of the external world. His only certainty was this: I think, therefore I am. But modern neuroscience and quantum theory may suggest even that is too generous, because thought itself may not be proof of reality. It may just be the noise a brain makes when trapped in illusion. Let's begin with the dream argument. Every night you enter worlds indistinguishable from this one. You see, feel, suffer, love, and only later, upon waking, do you declare it just a dream. But in the moment, it was real. Your brain was fully activated. Logic functioned. Pain felt genuine. The simulation passed. Your judgment failed. Now consider lucid dreams, states where you know you are dreaming but continue inside them. People have lived years in dreams, constructed entire relationships, learned languages, only to wake and find none of it was real. And yet the memories persist. Then there's false awakening, a phenomenon where you dream that you've woken up. Begin your day, brush your teeth, dress, eat, only to realize you're still asleep. In some cases, this cycle repeats dozens of times, trapping people in recursive layers of perceived consciousness. Now ask yourself, if a dream can simulate waking, and you can dream that you've woken from a dream, then what is the test for realness? Your senses, fabricated, your memories, falsifiable, your logic, dream logic, mimics it, your body, an image, like all others. There is no external metric inside the dream. Now apply this to waking life. Quantum consciousness theories, like Orcore, proposed by Penrose and Hameroff, suggest that conscious experience arises not in neurons, but in quantum processes within microtubules inside your brain. If true, then consciousness itself is subject to quantum indeterminacy, unstable, unpredictable, and entangled, which means your thoughts may be flickering between possible states, not actual ones. You are not a stream of stable identity, you are a probabilistic cloud of subjective impressions, and consciousness, by that logic, is just another dream state, floating on a sea of collapsing probabilities. So how would you know if this is the dream, the one reality you've always returned to, or just one more recursive simulation, carefully constructed by a dreaming brain that's still asleep? Your brain doesn't care. It doesn't need truth to function. It only needs coherence. And if you feel fear, gravity, identity, that's enough. The illusion stabilizes. But here's the twist. You've doubted dreams before, but have you ever doubted wakefulness this deeply? If you feel the creeping uncertainty now, the thinning of the world, the breath behind your breath, then maybe that's the final sign. You're not waking from sleep, you're remembering it. So answer honestly, what part of you is absolutely certain that this moment is real? 15. You've never seen the world, only its shadow. Look around. You, the floor, the walls, the flicker of light behind your closed eyes. You trust your senses, not because they're accurate, but because they're all you've ever known. But here's a truth you've spent your whole life avoiding. You've never seen the world. You've only ever seen your brain's idea of it. Start with vision. What your eyes receive is not the world. It's a stream of photons bouncing off surfaces. Your retina converts this data into electrochemical signals. Then your brain, in the dark, in silence, a hallucination. You never see with your eyes. You see with your brain. And your brain has never been outside your skull. There is no color in the world. There is no sound, no scent, no texture. These are internal renderings, sensory metaphors. Electromagnetic frequencies become blue. Vibrations in air become music. Molecules in your nose become vanilla. None of these things exist as you perceive them. They are translations. Language your mind invented to interpret noise. And you believe it without question. But what if your brain mistranslates? What if it distorts, simplifies, edits? It does. Consider the color constancy illusion. Your brain alters what you perceive based on lighting context. Consider phantom limb syndrome. People feel pain in body parts that no longer exist. Consider visual neglect. Patients with brain damage literally fail to see half the world and don't even notice. Their world is missing and their mind doesn't tell them, and yet they feel normal. So how sure are you that you are seeing all there is? Now move to sound. You think you hear voices, footsteps, wind, but your ears don't hear. They detect air pressure fluctuations. Your brain assembles these into meaning. In experiments, subjects hear completely different phrases from the same audio depending on what text they were primed with. What you hear is not what was said. It's what you expect to hear. Then touch. You think you're feeling your sheets, your body, your breath. But touch is not contact, it's repulsion. No two atoms ever truly touch. Your skin feels pressure, temperature, vibration. But these are brain simulations too. Your hand, as you perceive it, is a map, not a fact. Even time is a construct. Your sense of duration, of before and after, is generated in the insula and hippocampus, based on memory, emotion, and rhythm. Time can stretch, compress, vanish. In trauma, moments feel infinite. In sleep, hours vanish in a blink. So if time, space, sound, touch, and light are all fabricated, then what is left of the world? What if Plato was right in his allegory of the cave? Prisoners mistake shadows for truth because they've never seen anything else. But the horror isn't being in the cave. The horror is not knowing. You're in one. You call this life. You call it perception. But what if it's only the shadow of a deeper structure, one your senses will never reach? A reality just out of range, humming beneath the illusion, waiting. And if all you've ever known is this simulation of simulation, if you've never truly touched or seen or heard, then who or what has been living your life? 16. Your memories are not yours. They're fabrications rewritten by silence. You trust your memories. You build your identity on them. But what if the past you believe in never happened? Not like you remember, not even close. Let's start with the science. Every time you recall a memory, your brain destabilizes it. You're not retrieving a file, you're reopening it like wet clay. And as you revisit it, your emotional state, your beliefs, even the way you're asked to remember, all of it reshapes the memory. This is called reconsolidation. Your memories are not preserved, they are rewritten every single time. In studies, scientists have implanted false memories into people's minds, entire events that never happened, vacations they never took, crimes they never committed. With just the right suggestions, the brain invents reality, and the body reacts accordingly. Heart rate, sweat, emotion, the lie feels more real than the truth ever did. Now consider childhood memories. You think you remember your third birthday, your first fall, your mother's voice in the dark. But the hippocampus, the part of your brain that stores episodic memory, isn't fully formed until around age 3 to 4. Anything before that, fabricated. You remember the story others told you. You remember the photograph you saw. You remember the emotion someone described. But you don't remember the moment, because the moment doesn't exist anymore. And even in adulthood, memory decay begins immediately. Within hours of an event, 50% of detail is lost. Days later, almost all nuance is gone. What remains is a skeletal version, a myth you retell yourself to maintain continuity, a story stitched together by silence. And here's the deeper horror. Your memory is not a window to the past. It is a mirror of your present self. What you believe now, your needs, your guilt, your shame, reshapes the past retroactively. You don't remember what happened. You remember what fits. Your brain rewrites to protect you, to stabilize you, to keep you believable to yourself. But in doing so, it lies. You are walking through your life, confident in the map, but the roads are drawn in pencil, and the hand that holds the eraser is yours. Now consider trauma. Sometimes your mind buries memory, seals it in dissociation, not lost, just inaccessible. And then, without warning, it returns, fragmented, unfamiliar, terrifying. You say, I had no memory of this. But the truth is worse. It was always there, shaping you from the shadows. And sometimes, what you believe is trauma may never have happened. Sometimes the pain is real, but the story behind it, a phantom. So now ask yourself, if your memories are fluid, if they lie, if they shift with each retelling, then how do you know who you are? How do you prove that the person you believe you were yesterday ever existed? You can't. You never could. All you have are impressions, echoes, footprints in fog. So tell me, if the foundation of your identity is written in water, what will be left of you when it finally dries? 17. The self is just a story you forgot. You were telling you, say I, with confidence. I feel, I want, I remember, I am, but who, exactly, is speaking? You assume the self is a thing, an entity, a center. But in truth, it may be nothing more than a narrative device, a story your brain writes to organize chaos, a first-person fiction performed so convincingly you forgot it was fiction at all. Let's begin with the science. Neuroscience has failed to locate the self. No single region in the brain holds your identity. There is no eye center, no homunculus watching a screen inside your head. What we find instead are modular systems, networks responsible for vision, emotion, language, body, schema, memory, each with their own inputs and rhythms, and between them, nothing, no self, no soul, no you, yet your experience insists on it. So what's happening? Enter the self-model theory of subjectivity, proposed by philosopher Thomas Metzinger. He suggests that what you call self is actually a transparent, dynamic model generated by the brain. You don't see the model, you see through it, the same way a person wearing contact lenses forgets they're there. The model includes your body, your location, your internal monologue, your moral identity, even your autobiographical memory. But it's not reality. It's an interface designed to help a biological machine survive. It doesn't need to be accurate, only useful, and it works until it breaks. When people experience depersonalization, they describe feeling detached from themselves, like a character watching their life from the outside. Their voice sounds alien, their reflection unfamiliar. Emotions vanish, but they remain conscious of something watching. When patients undergo split brain surgery, severing the corpus callosum, two centers of awareness emerge, two independent selves in one skull, each half unaware of the other. Which one is you? Now layer in narrative. Psychology, your identity is largely a story, memories selected, shaped, and told to create meaning. You choose which parts to remember, which parts to edit, which roles to assign yourself, hero, victim, failure, survivor. But you are not the story, you are the storyteller. And over time, even that gets buried. You forget the edits. You forget the revisions, until one day you mistake the narrative for truth. And that's the moment the illusion becomes real. Because the model cannot reflect on itself. It doesn't include the fact that it's a model that would be breaking the game. So you live inside a loop. The self experiences the world, then tells itself a story about what it experienced, then forgets that it told the story at all. And now you're still doing it. The voice reading these words, the one in your head, feels like you, but it's just the interface, still spinning, still pretending. So if the self is a story, and you are not the story, then where are you, really? Who is listening, and what happens when the story ends? 18. You are not in the world. The world is inside you. Close your eyes. Listen to your breath. Feel your body pressing against the bed, gravity pulling you downward. You think you're grounded in something solid, a stable external world where you exist as a small creature looking outward. But what if that's backward? What if the world is not around you, but within you? This isn't metaphor, it's the consequence of everything we've covered so far, and it begins with the hard problem of consciousness. In science, we can explain correlates of consciousness, brain states, neural firing, sensory processing. But subjective experience, your inner world, your thoughts, your you-ness, remains unaccounted for. Where exactly does it exist? Because if you try to locate it, it slips away. Your eyes show you images, but where do those images appear? There is no screen inside your head, no theater in the skull. Your brain is silent, dark, and wet, and yet you see light. You hear voices, but no speaker. You feel a body, but your nerves are just signals. You have never touched the outside world. You only feel your brain's internal simulation of it. Now consider idealism, a branch of philosophy dating back to Berkeley and resurfacing through scientists like Bernardo Kastrup. It argues that consciousness is not a product of matter, but that matter is a product of consciousness. There is no external world, only mental experiences, filtered and projected by your mind. The trees, the sky, the walls of your room, all sensations within awareness, not out there, but in here. You are not in a world. The world is in awareness. And awareness is the one thing you cannot escape. If all of reality is experience, and experience only ever happens inside consciousness, then the notion of outside collapses. There is no external world, only the appearance of one. And it gets worse. Your body, the thing you call me, is part of the same simulation. You feel it, you move it. But the signals that produce the illusion of movement happen after the action. Your sense of ownership is a post hoc construction, a delay dressed as authorship. You are not a body inside a space. You are a point of awareness generating both body and space. And when that awareness fades in sleep, in anesthesia, in death, the world vanishes with it. You say, the world continues when I close my eyes, but does it? Have you ever truly known a moment where you were not perceiving? Isn't every reality you've ever known tied to your own ability to experience it? Then what exists when experience stops? What is real if no one is there to witness it? Not a camera, not a machine, but you, the observer. And if that reality never returns, what does that say about the one you believed in? 19. The universe doesn't know you exist, and it never will. You've been told you matter, that your life has meaning, that somewhere your existence ripples into something greater. But physics, stripped of hope, stripped of narrative, offers no such comfort. The universe isn't looking back at you. It doesn't know your name. It doesn't even know what a name is. Let's begin with cosmic scale. The observable universe contains over 2 trillion galaxies. Each galaxy holds hundreds of billions of stars, and around many of those stars, planets, lifeless, burning, gas-wrapped, or frozen. Statistically, it is almost certain that life exists elsewhere, and it is almost equally certain that none of it knows you, not your thoughts, not your fears, not your species, not your planet. Your entire life, every memory, every love, every decision is confined to one fragile brain, on one decaying rock, orbiting a dying star, inside a quiet corner of a galaxy that is already drifting away. And that's just the start. Now, step into deep time. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. You will exist, at best, for 70 or 80, and most of that time will be spent asleep, unconscious, distracted, forgetting. You will occupy 0.000000000000006 of cosmic history, a number so small it is functionally zero. And when you're gone, the atoms that made you will scatter. Your name will be forgotten, your species, too. The earth will be consumed by the sun. The sun will fade into a white dwarf. The galaxies will stretch apart until even light can no longer cross the silence. And the cosmos will go dark. Forever, you might say. But I can still leave a mark. I can still change something. But change relative to what? In 100 years, no one will remember your voice. In 1,000, no one will remember your city. In 1 million, no one will know your species ever existed. And none of this is cruel. It's not a punishment. Because for cruelty to exist, something must care. And the universe is not capable of caring. It has no goals, no awareness, no sympathy. It's not hostile, it's indifferent. Now look inward. Your brain evolved to tell stories, to see faces in noise, meaning in patterns, purpose in chaos. It will do anything to avoid this truth. It will invent gods, reincarnation, universal love, and destiny, all to distract from the abyss. Because to accept this fully is to collapse the scaffolding you built your life on, the scaffolding of mattering. But here's the thing. Even this idea that the universe doesn't know you might be too generous, because to be ignored implies that you were once noticed, and the deeper reality is this: you were never noticed. You were never named. The universe has no concept of you. You are not rejected. You are not loved. You are not even seen. So tell me, if the universe doesn't know you're here, then what, exactly, are you trying to prove? 20. Entanglement means you're never alone, and that should terrify you. You think you are alone in your body, alone in your thoughts, alone in your mind. But quantum mechanics says otherwise. Let's start with a phenomenon known as quantum entanglement, one of the most empirically confirmed, yet deeply unsettling features of reality. When two particles become entangled, their states are no longer independent. Measure one, and the other, no matter how far away, instantly reflects the change. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, and he was right to be disturbed, because entanglement breaks locality. There's no signal, no in-between, no time delay, just instantaneous correlation, faster than light, beyond cause and effect. This means something fundamental. In quantum reality, separation is an illusion. Now let's bring it closer to home. You are made of particles. So is everyone else. So is everything. And particles don't exist in isolation. They exist in systems, in interactions, in entanglements. The atoms in your body were once forged in the cores of stars, scattered by supernova, shared by breath, water, touch, and death. You are not isolated. You are quantum connected, whether you feel it or not. Now imagine this: the atoms in your brain may still be entangled with particles from other systems, other people, other histories. Some physicists speculate that consciousness itself may involve entangled states across neural structures. If true, then some part of you is not entirely yours. And when another particle across the world or beyond collapses into a state, the corresponding one inside you may adjust. Not because it knows, but because they are not two separate things. This violates your sense of privacy, of identity, of being sealed within your skull. You are not sealed, you are open, and something you've never met may be rewriting you right now, and you will never know. Now flip the frame. Your mind is not a fortress. It's a participant. Every breath, every glance, every whisper across the void becomes part of the quantum field in which your body is suspended. You are entangled with strangers, with places you've never seen, with futures you haven't yet touched. And if your state changes, theirs might too. So ask yourself, if your thoughts are partially determined by distant correlations, if your inner life is not entirely yours, if you might ripple into someone else without either of you knowing, then where do you end? Where do they begin? And in a world where boundaries dissolve and identity leaks between particles, can you ever truly be alone? Or are you just a temporary illusion of independence, flickering inside a web that cannot be escaped? You slept through the simulation if you made it here. It means you're either asleep, or you've dissolved into the silence between the sentences. But it doesn't matter anymore, because the person who pressed play on this video is gone. All that's left is the echo. You came searching for answers about time, self, space, mind. But the deeper you went, the more the questions folded in on themselves. You were never supposed to understand. You were only meant to unravel. So sleep, if you haven't already, not as escape, but as surrender. Surrender to the idea that there may never have been a you at all, just a collapsing wave function, whispering its last dream into the void. If you want to fall deeper, subscribe. Each video peels away one more layer of the illusion. You won't remember it, but your subconscious already knows what comes next. Good night.